Hey everybody, welcome to Watches with Dennis, and we're continuing our Watches and Wonders 2021 discussions, and finally it is Tudor time. So Tudor, for those that aren't familiar, is seen as the sister company to Rolex because they're both owned by the same entity. It historically was a company that just made cheaper versions of Rolex watches, similar parts, same parts in a lot of cases, just didn't have the same finishing, same quality, same in-house production capabilities, but they were much more accessible, and that was the original design behind Tudor. However, really since around 2012, Tudor has shifted focus and is very much making their own things. They're seen, I believe, as a lot more innovative than Rolex is. Rolex is a very conservative company that does iterative change, and Tudor, again, while they, like any watchmaker, will often do iterative change, they have shown a willingness to take a lot more risks. That being said, the interesting thing is, what is their most successful line of watches? It's the Black Bay line, which is heritage models that look like the old Rolex style Tudors from yesteryear. But that's not the only thing that they do. And while most of what they announced at Watches and Wonders 2021 is in the Black Bay line, I want to go ahead and start with the Tudor 1926, which is the one non-Black Bay announcement that they had. They do have a video, by the way, that walks through all of their announcements. I do have a link in the description below if you want to watch it. It's only about 6.5 minutes long. Anyway, so the Tudor 1926. They didn't do a lot in the way of changes. One is, I believe there's now a leather strap option for all of the various models of the 1926. And then the other is their opaline dial now has gold markers as an option. For those that aren't familiar, you can see it on the screen. The 1926 is their dress watch. I would say it's the Tudor version of the Datejust, though it does look a lot different than the Datejust. But I'm a big fan of the 1926. You can see from the image that it uses even number markers. I like that. That's different. It's off-putting to some people, though. Normally with a watch we see at the quarter hours if we're going to do partial Arabic numerals. And I just like that they varied that. And so instead of the 3 and the 9 being represented with numbers, we have Arabics at the 2, 4, 8, and 10. It's got a waffle style dial. All of them do. They're a variety of colors. This new color, the gold on the opaline, I like it. I think that's the same gold that was on the gray dials from before, and you can still get that. I personally prefer the opaline with the blue, but again, it's up to you what you like. As you can see at the lower portion just above the 6 o'clock, it says rotor self-winding. This is often the indication when they are using a third-party movement. And so this does not use the in-house developed caliber that Tudor created. Instead, these used to have ETAs in them, and I think now they are using Solitas, but they are modified. And I'm not entirely sure exactly what modifications are in place. My understanding is that Tudor has a reputation for using their own regulation system, oscillator, and escapement. So they do put in modifications to them. It's not just a drag and drop. They don't just take an ETA or a Solita and just throw it into the watch. But because they use a third-party movement, it helps keep the pricing down. There's a whole bunch of options on the 1926 line, but they all sort of start around $2,000 MSRP. So again, if you're looking for a dress or a sports dress style watch, a Datejust style watch, and you want a luxury watch and you don't want to spend a whole lot of money, I'm a big fan of the 1926. You can get them under $2,000, and it's a good, robust watch. 100 meters of water resistance. It looks great. You can change out the straps if you want to. Obviously, you can buy them on a variety of different straps. Its biggest negative, I would say, is it's only got about 38 hours of power reserve, which is pretty limited for this day and age. But aside from that, it's got the date on it is quick set, so it's easy to set. It's got hacking and all the usual stuff you would expect from a luxury watch. So given that, if you're looking for something, I think this line, the 1926 line, is overlooked by a lot of people. I'm not sure Tudor does a great job promoting it. And I don't think that what they've announced here at Watches and Wonders is really going to move the dial, pun partially intended, on people, whether they like this watch or they don't. But I am a fan of the 1926, and I definitely think it's something that people should keep on their mind if they're looking for a dress watch that's luxury but at the lower end of the price tier, because it's a good watch. Another watch that they announced that uses a third-party movement as well, though it doesn't have a date on it, is the Heritage Black Bay 32, 36, and 41. And those numbers correspond to their dial diameters. That uses the T600 movement. As I noted, it's a non-date option. This is their classic sort of dive watch. As you can see, the change is the dial. They now have a silver dial option. You've got the snowflake hands, which Tudor is known for. I actually like the snowflake hands. That's, again, something that is polarizing for some people. And I will touch on that later because I don't always like snowflake hands. But most of the time, I like that they're easy to read, and it makes sense in a dive scenario that you would want a nice, easy to identify hour hand. Again, it's using a movement that comes currently from Sellita, and that helps keep the price down. This runs about $3,000 MSRP, so it's about $1,000 more than the 1926. It does have 50 more meters of water resistance than the Tudor 1926. So this is 150 meters of water resistance, if that's important to you. Again, a variety of strap options are available, but it's a nice, classic, clean look. And again, they didn't really change anything other than give you a new dial color option. These are less popular than the Black Bay 58s, but I think these have done relatively decent. And again, the price point is so competitive for a luxury diver, and you're saving because you're not getting a in-house movement. It's not COSC certified, nor was the 1926. I should note, they do use pretty high quality movement, though. Back when they were using ETA in the 1926s, I believe they were using top grade, which is the tier just below COSC certification. So they're pretty accurate. So I think you'll be pleased with it unless you absolutely need COSC certified or that's your standard that you need to apply to. In which case, we have more announcements from Tudor that will meet that need. So let's jump into what people were really excited about. And that I would start with is the Black Bay Chronos. So these are the chronographs that Tudor does, and they have revealed two new variants of that. One is called the Panda Dial, and one is called the Reverse Panda Dial. And the difference is obviously the color scheme. The Panda Dial is a white dial with black subdials, and Reverse Panda is black dial with white subdials. Now, they have made some modifications to their chrono with this reveal, namely that they've slimmed up the case size. These watches are COSC certified. They're using the Tudor caliber MT5813, so it's an in-house movement. And you have some strap options. They come with a bun strap. You can get them on the classic steel bracelet. There's a woven strap option that you can do. The reason why I think a lot of people are excited, the slimness helps a little bit. I think it's mostly just that having these Panda and Reverse Panda options very much feels like classic sort of Paul Newman Daytona Rolex look. It's a great look. I love Panda dials and Reverse Panda dials. I think that they're probably the most attractive chronographs. But again, just my personal judgment on that. The only thing I don't really care for when I saw these reveals is the snowflake hand. And I mentioned earlier, I like the snowflake on dive watches. I think it makes a lot of sense. The only issue that I really have with the snowflakes on these, as you can see from the images, it's so big that when that snowflake is sort of in that 9 o'clock position or in the 3 o'clock position, it's going to obscure a great deal of the subdial. So I just think that it doesn't make a lot of sense to block your subdials on a chronograph. Again, it just defeats the functionality of it. And so that's the only thing I kind of wish was different. Again, given it's the Black Bay line, I don't know if they can bring themselves to not use the snowflake. So it is what it is. But that's my only one gripe that I have with how this watch looks. Otherwise, I think it looks great. So pricing, because I like to mention that for those that are considering getting watches, these come in around $5,000. For comparison's sake, an oyster steel, so the stainless steel model of the Rolex Daytonas, MSRP is just over $13,000. So this is less than half that retail price. And as I've noted in other videos, and anyone who's shopped for Rolex before, even before the last 5 years when it came to Daytonas, you don't get them retail unless you have a good relationship with your authorized dealer. So you end up having to pay more than retail in the gray market or in the used market. They just go for more. So obviously, Tudor is now giving you something that's far more obtainable and is extremely attractive watch. So I think this will probably be the big sales hit from Watches and Wonders for Tudor. The final watch reveals that I want to touch on that Tudor did were regarding the Black Bay 58s that are not chronographs. So they've come out with a couple of precious metal styles, One is in 18 karat gold. That's the Black Bay 58 18K. And the other is the Black Bay 58 925, which is silver with a taupe dial. Both of these watches are really attractive. The gold one has a green dial and green bezel. I'm quickly having learned that Watches and Wonders 2021 is telling us that this is the year of green. We have this. We have the new green Breitling. There's a green Nautilus from Patek Philippe. There's the green Tank Must from Cartier, which is probably my favorite of all these greens that I've seen so far. And I'm sure there are other greens that I'm forgetting about or haven't yet looked at in reviewing all of this content that's been dropping. I think it looks nice. Both of these watches are 39 millimeters, by the way. Both of them are COSC certified. Both of them are using in-house movement. Both of them now have display case backs, and that's something different. I don't think Tudor ever before has put a display case back on a dive watch. I'm sort of curious if they've decorated that movement more. One of my criticisms of the North Flag when it came out is it had a display case back because it was one of the first watches with an in-house movement, but I didn't get it because the movement was so Spartan. It was like you're showing off that you have an in-house movement, which I understand. It's exciting. It's a big deal for a manufacturer to be able to develop their own movements in-house. But it's so easy to get watches that have display case backs that why would you show it off unless it was really special? To me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Obviously, on these precious metal watches, you would think, okay, well, it's more about the aesthetic than the functionality. Though that's not to say that there isn't functionality with these watches. They are water resistant to 200 meters. So you can still go and dive and swim with them. They're meant to be functional. Price-wise, the gold 18 karat is just under $17,000 MSRP. The silver watch, which so far from what I've seen online, there's a lot more buzz about. And while I do think the gold and green works, I think the silver with the taupe dial and bezel looks way better. It's just, that one might actually sell really, really well. In part because the MSRP on that is about $4,300. That's less than $1,000 more than a traditional steel Black Bay 58. So I think for a lot of people, given that it's silver and you're not even spending $1,000 more, they'll reach up to that, $4,000 around price point and try and get a hold of this particular variant of the watch. So those were Tudor's reveals for Watches and Wonders 2021. What are your all thoughts about these watches? Again, I think Black Bay is where Tudor's making all of their money now, and I hope that they'll continue to do work and innovate outside of the Black Bay line, but I completely understand why they just basically put all of their eggs in the Black Bay basket, because that's what, outside of Black Bay, I think the Pelagos is about the only watch that comes to my mind that I think has had a high degree of success. At least it's very popular amongst watch aficionados. Maybe we see something move with the 1926 now. I doubt it, given it's just a dial change, which is too bad because it really is a nice watch. But overall, I think Tudor did a very nice job with their presentation. I think they're going to come out of Watches and Wonders as one of the most, if not the most successful company in terms of appealing to the market. But I'd love to know what your all thoughts are, so please go ahead and leave a comment if you have any. And other than that, if you want to be notified when I put out a new video, go ahead and subscribe. And other than that, I will just say thanks for listening. I'll talk to you all next time. Take care, everybody.